The name Strictly Dubs, how that came about, I had a fascination with the word dubs, right? Hence why, I've got a label called Urban Dubs. Yeah, I was just like, I just thought dubs was really cool with a Z on the end, right? Anyway, so, I kind of took it from the whole kind of Strictly Rhythm, Strictly Dubs. You know what I mean? That's where it kind of came from. So that whole EP, so, I was kind of, at the time, I was experimenting with a lot of two-step stuff. It's kind of around the same time where, the whole kind of R&B was huge out there, right? Even my early Club Asylum stuff with Paul Emmanuel, we was kind of experimenting with R&B acapellas and stuff. This was a little side project to that. I kind of wanted to make a two-step EP with 2 tracks on there, A-side and a B-side, for Nice and Ripe's label. And literally, I had the idea. And so not usually how I work, if I'm going to do like a 2-track vinyl, A-side and a B-side, I'll probably make or put down maybe 4 or 5 different ideas, right, of drums. So I've got my MPC set up, maybe got about 3 or 4 different kits on there, which I like. Okay, all right, I'm gonna just literally have a play around with some beats using the MPC. So I've got a couple of maybe 8-bar loops just going, different patterns. From there, I decide, okay, out of those 4 or 5 that I make, I'll say to myself, right, okay, let me play around with this one. I'm really feeling this one, yeah? So, okay. So I like this beat. So I thought, okay, cool, what am I gonna do now? So I thought, let me try and put some R&B kind of flavor to it, you know what I'm saying? I was kind of like, in my head, I thought this whole 2-step thing was like our kind of like UK R&B, you know what I mean? That was my whole mindset. Okay, so I had those beats going. I was listening to a lot, and I grew up on a lot of 80s stuff anyway through my dad and his band and whatnot. They used to do cover versions, they used to perform a lot of those kind of 80s funk, soul, disco kind of vibes anyway. So, but the Mutual Attraction track by Change, that was a big tune for me, really kind of like, that was probably one of my favorite tracks from back then. So I thought, you know what, wouldn't it be cool if I can just find a space in that track where I can just maybe nick the chords from there, because I wasn't the keyboard player at all. Let me try and find a space in the track where I can just nick the chords, and I'll take those chords and put it over my beat. But there wasn't really a space, so in the track at all for that. So there was no breakdowns, there was nothing at the beginning, there was nothing at the end. So okay, all right, cool. Let me see if I can just find a place in the track where, if it's not clean, I'll just find the cleanest possible space in there, i.e. with no vocals in there, or as less amount of drums in there as possible. You know what I'm saying? So the best of my ability, I found a spot in the record where I can just kind of take that bit, take the full chord structure of it, chop it up, and then what I would have to do is literally kind of filter out the drums as much as I can, chop it up on the drum machine, on different pads, and then just kind of play those chords. Right, have that looping. So I managed to do that, and I thought, oh, that sounds all right. That sounds all right. So obviously I took out all the bass from it as well, just had the chords, brought out the mid-range within that sample, had those samples playing with the beats that I had, those 2-step beats I had. And then I thought, okay, that sits really nice. Okay, so what now? You know what? I thought, well, if I want to do this, I might as well find an R&B a cappella that can kind of fit with it. So what I used to do, I used to kind of create beat ideas in the studio, and then have my vinyl turntable there with my a cappella records, and I used to play beats or ideas that I had, and just find little vocals from my vinyl, and just play the a cappella while that's playing, and just see what kind of works, And sometimes I had to readjust the pitch on the turntable on the a cappella, just to kind of get it sitting in my ears, get those vocals sitting right in tune with what I was playing in the background, you know what I mean? Which I did with this a cappella. So in doing that, I had an idea. I found a Mary J. Blige track, Real Love. And in the verse bit, there was a bit which I really liked, which I can imagine chopping up and replaying it, So that realize, I've been searching for somebody, realize, I really want you to realize. I just thought that was in my head. So I thought, okay, let me just chop that up and put it across the keyboard. And after finding the sweet spot on the vinyl, I chopped it up, put it on the beat. It worked really well, and I thought, okay, that's quite cool. And I thought, you know, bass-wise, I needed something that's quite big, round, and the bass, because the bass didn't really need to be that busy, but the sound of the bass needed to be big. You know what I mean? A real simple bass sound, but that's quite heavy, which can roll with those two-step beats. So I had that going on. And I thought, okay, this is really, really nice. I've done a similar thing on the B-side to that record, a track called Thinking of You, which was kind of a similar kind of concept. So yeah, that's how Strictly Dubs. That's how the Realised track came about, and yeah, the rest is history.